Good afternoon, welcome back to A is for Addict. My name's Rodney. For those of you returning, thank you very much. I hope you are enjoying the books and getting some insight into the mind of an addict. For those who are here for the first time, this is just a story of my life through active addiction over 20 years and the recovery that I found afterwards. When I finished the last episode, or the last book as I call them, I was talking about when I went to Devon prison, spent my time there, and finally I had been given parole, and a guy at one of the rehabs had agreed to sign parole for me to say that I would be staying there. So after this had all happened, that they said to me, yes, it's been approved, the parole, they found the address. It would take about a week before things would be finalized. So that week was one of the most, it was such a fearful week because, as I told you, I was sentenced for that last case. I was sentenced at 18 months, and then I was sentenced, all my suspended sentences that were outstanding, which was 3 or 4 of them. So there were other cases. What was meant to happen is I was meant to finish one case, and then the next case gets activated and I do the time for that. So I'd been getting parole for this first case. I wasn't sure about the rest, what was happening. So it was really fearful. Then after about a week they called me. They said to me, I'm going on parole tomorrow. I'd have to just sleep in a different section that night. I never told anybody that I'm paroling the next day. When you in jail, you'll see that it's one of the things you don't do. You don't let people know that you're going on parole. It's something that people rather keep quiet about, because unfortunately there is that element there that would like you to stay and would, set you up or do something to keep you in, just to be nasty. So you don't tell anybody. And then so the next morning when I got up, I never put on my prison uniform. I got up and I put on civilian clothes, and then everybody knew, okay, I'm leaving. I couldn't say my goodbyes fast enough to get out of there. I went to the front offices. They done the paperwork, whatever needed to be done, and I was taken to the van and we were on our way. Apparently we had to go to the parole office in Pretoria to finalize everything. This is where I believe things would go wrong. I've been an addict and having such bad luck throughout the last 20 years. I didn't think it would happen. I really thought there was going to be an issue somewhere and something would go wrong. But anyway, we got to the parole offices in Pretoria. I sat down with the parole officer. He gave me all the rules of parole. I have to sign in once a month. I can't leave the premises where I'm staying. They will be checking up, doing random checks. Like once a week they'll just be coming there and making sure that I'm there. Obviously no drugging or drinking or any of that, which I was quite happy with all of this. I was just happy to get out of prison. Even though I was supposed to be going to a rehab, I was still happy to be getting out of the prison. So we done the paperwork, and when the paperwork was done, the officer said to me, okay, you can go. I was in such shock. I was so happy, but I was in such shock, and I was in such shock that I had to say to him, but what about previous cases? The suspended sentences. And he looked through the documents and he said, no, that's it's all been sorted out in the one. It did run concurrently and not consecutively, which was it was such a relief for me. When I left there, when I left the building, I walked out of that parole office, and after now I've been locked up for, must be with Devon and Sun City, it's over a year now. With being locked up, I'm so scared that something goes wrong that I don't even try and enjoy the outside or walk to the shop first or have a look around. What I do is, the first thing I do is I walk to the first taxi that I see and I ask them for a lift to take me to where I need to go. I had a little bit of cash on me from working at the shop and making some money, so I had that money for a taxi. And I'd not been to Enoch's Walk before, but I asked him if he knows about it. He says he does, but he couldn't take me there. He could take me to a police station that's about halfway. which he did. When I got to the police station, I walked in and I asked to speak to the commanding officer. He wasn't in at the moment. They asked me why. I said I'm going to rehab, I just need to speak to him. And they said I can wait. After about an hour or 2 hours, he arrived. And when this man arrived, I went and I spoke to him and I asked him, is there any way they would be able to give me a lift to Enoch's Walk, because I don't know where it is, and it's still quite a far distance. This commanding officer was quite in shock. I mean, not many people would come out on parole and still go and sign themselves in to actually go, to a rehab. But I had had enough. My time drugging and everything else I had done had come to an end. I could feel it within me. I didn't want it no longer. So he actually himself said, okay, he'll take me. He knows Enoch's Walk, he's dropped guys off there before. He'll take me. It wasn't a very pleasant drive, I can tell you that, because on the way there, I think he was trying to put the fear into me. He kept on telling me that, all the worst of the worst go to Enoch's Walk. They even send people from America and from Mozambique and all those places to come and do rehabilitation there, because it's so strict and it's tough love, and I must just look out for myself. So he did try to scare me a bit. So walking in there, I was a lot anxious. When I arrived, there was a couple of people standing in front of the building, and we pulled up in the police car. So I really felt like such a criminal. But I also felt like it gives me a little bit of, what could you call it, a little bit of street cred, if you like to say. Just if there is anybody there that's he described, I at least have something to fall back on and make out like, I was arrested and I'm a criminal, don't mess with me. So at least I had that. When I got there, Mark, the guy that decided to allow me in, he came up and he shook my hand, and the police officer didn't stay very long. He left shortly after, and Mark just introduced himself and he took me into the admissions. We sat down and we had a chat, and it turns out Mark was such an amazing guy. We had good conversations. He was really good to me. He treated me well. So that was the beginning of my stay at Enoch's Walk. When I got there, all the guys were out in the fields. They were busy working, so I was alone inside the house that first day, trying to make myself comfortable and find where's my bed going to be and all of that. When they returned, they were all decent people. They were all, I got on with all of them. I don't think there was anybody that I had any type of thing with. We all got on. And so began my stay. I had to stay down in the admissions area for 2 weeks before you go to the main camp, which I did. They just had us working. They had us digging out the dam, all the mud from the dam you had to dig out, and you had to cut the grass with slashes. Heavy laborious work that they gave the guys. I still had it in me to get away with everything I could, so I pleaded sick because I can't go into the sun very long. I get shingles on my shoulders, which does pain, so I couldn't go into the sun. So they gave me other work to do. I would still do the digging and that, but the cutting the grass I basically didn't have to do. So I was there for the 2 weeks, and then it was time to go up to the camp. Before you go up to the camp, you go to what they call the board, where 5 or 6 of the high guys, the managers of the camp sit, and you introduce yourself and you sit with them and they talk and discuss where you're going to go and explain to you where your room is and all of that. I went through that and up into the camp, and I was given a job in the kitchen. Luckily I managed to work in the kitchen, so I was cooking for the camp. It was just a wood stove. You had to burn firewood in the stove, so the hours were a little bit not so lucky. In the mornings you had to be up early, and it was just the mornings that were very early that you'd be up, because you had to start the fire and make the food and all before the rest of the camp got up. So that was a bit harsh, but it was okay. I had my own little room, and the guy that left there, he left me his duvet and his pillow and the things that he had inside there, so I was sorted for that. And I was quite comfortable from the day I started there. And I also had it in my mind that I won't leave this place until I know that I've got work on the outside. I had no choice but to think that way, and like I said, I also had a bit of a mind shift, so that was my plan. I would not leave until somebody offered me a job, or until I managed to go for an interview and got a job, and something else came up in my life. Yeah, so I started working in the kitchen. I met a couple of guys there. Charles Horn, I met, became quite a good friend. I haven't seen him for a while, still text here and there. And a couple of other people. One of the guys that I did mention there, that I didn't mention, was Daryl. I met this guy. We became friends. I really liked him throughout the camp. He was a good guy. He had his own way, his own type of attitude. Yeah, I got on with him quite well. I felt like I got on with him quite well. At times I thought that we weren't really bonding. I did try and bond with him, but he was very guarded, which he is up until today. And yeah, so I started working there. I made some friends. I attended the church there a couple of times, which I didn't really enjoy their church. They're very old school, and I believe more in praise and worship than in just sermons all the time. So yeah, that wasn't very nice for me, but the rest of it was okay. Enoch's Walk, I don't even know how long I stayed there. I don't know when I got there. I know I went through the 1 year, the end of the 1 year, into the new year, and in that new year I got my leave. I was allowed to go on leave. So leave was, it was just over a weekend as well, you know. When I left there to go on leave, I left, and the addict in me, some part of me thought about the drugs and that again. Now I had had that mind shift and a change of heart and everything, you know, that I was going to come clean now. And on my way to my mother's place during this visit, on my way to my mother's place, I stopped at the Nigerian where I used to live. This was 2011, somewhere around there, and I bought myself one. I didn't buy myself. I saw a friend of mine that was there, Donovan, the guy with the one leg. I met him, and he made a hit for me. He made me a shot, and I had one shot, and that was the very last time I ever touched drugs. I never touched heroin, crack again after that. I don't know why I had to have that shot, why I felt like I should do that. I don't know if it was a confirmation to me, for a way for me to have something greater than me letting me have that shot, to see that this is not what I want no more, what I don't want anymore. But after that shot, during the high of that shot and after that shot, I knew that that's it, this is not what I want. You know, I don't want it. I don't want to feel that way. I don't enjoy it. I just don't want it. And when after I had left there and said goodbye and went to my mother's place, I've never been back there again. I've never been back to that house ever again since then. And I've never missed it. I've never felt like it. I never craved it again after that. I just, like I say, and that's why I've said throughout the books, I can't really explain at all. And I can't explain how I stopped. Because that day I used, you know, I did use. I relapsed after all that time in jail. I did relapse, but relapsed on that one, and what it done for me was just confirm that it's no longer something that I want, and that was it. You know, I became clean. After that weekend, I went back to Enoch's, carried on working. Eventually, there was a job for the admissions man. Well, first there was a job for the guy that works with the donations. You know, Enoch's Walk ran off to donations. All the food, everything would be donated, and there was some guy chosen that would go out and see the people donating and all of that. He would handle that, and that position was going to come open, and it was also quite a nice position. So I applied for that. I didn't have a driver's license with me, that had been lost. I didn't have my ID book, that had been lost, so I couldn't get that job, unfortunately. I didn't get that. But then later on, the admissions manager job came open, where I would also have needed my ID book and my driver's license, but Mark managed to arrange for me to take over. And I ended up taking over the admissions section of the camp. Now, I ran admissions. I decided who can come in and who doesn't come in, even how much they pay. You know, they'd come in, they'd pay, we'd give it to the gentleman that lived next door that ran the accounts. I would do that. I would hold the meetings every morning. We talk and pray, you know, from the Bible. We talk about our day. I had basically a house father that used to run the house, which was Gary. Gary used to look after the house and look after the guys. I was outside in a separate room. I used to run everything else, and we all worked well together. And it was good fun. You know, I enjoyed it. So, like I said, my mind had been made up, and I believed that that is what I would be doing. I would be staying there now, and I would no longer be on the outside world. That would be my job, and that's where I would stay. Quite a while into it, Daryl had left. Said to him, if ever something comes up where there's work, he must please let me know. He had left. We stayed in contact infrequently every now and then. You know, I would keep my calls and happening. Not much. And then the one afternoon, he phoned me on a Friday to say, am I still interested? It's not much of a job, it's just a driving position, but am I still interested in working? And I jumped at it. I said, yes, of course, definitely. You know, I really do want to work. And he said, okay, that Monday you'll pick me up. So I spoke to the guy that owned the camp and ran the camp, Roger, let him know. He wished me luck, said goodbye to everybody, and Daryl picked me up Monday morning. He picked me up, and he took me first to apply for my driver's license that I had lost, and the next day he took me to apply for my ID. You know, so he sorted me out. He got me on my feet, and then from the 1st of that July, I started working with him and for him as a driver. You know, which was really enjoyable. I was working again. I was feeling good, and yeah, my life had started. Right, so now I've spoken about being in Enoch's Walk. I'm not going to go any further because it's already 17 and a half minutes. But when I continue, it will be now my new life, finished with the rehabs, finished with the prisons. Now I'm starting to work. Now we'll get into me working and being clean and finding a place and a wife and everything that follows, all the good things that follow. So thank you once again for joining me, for spending the time and hearing my story. I know it's all about me, but that's what it is. It's my story. Just hoping you just pick up a little bit of something here and there. You can maybe help you understand the addict more. For an addict to see, I've been through a lot, and yet I made it, man. Recovery is possible. So come back. The books are almost done. Like I said, we'll continue the channel. Thanks again for visiting. See you soon. Cheers.